6 months ago when I installed Cursor, I could not believe how powerful it was. Finally something to make my life easier, because the commute from my bedroom to my spare bedroom was really starting to take its toll. But then a few weeks ago, I just sort of forgot it existed, because I found the holy grail of developer efficiency.
You have chosen wisely.
That's right, overseas workers. No, of course I mean Claude Code. So today I wanted to go through my complete Claude Code workflow, because I think it's fundamentally changed the way I approach software development more than any other tool previously. A lot of the times when you prompt Cursor or any of these sort of tools to do anything for you, it doesn't do the right thing first time. And that's because you need to give them more context, and you can do that with a claude.md file. This is a file where you can sort of give code styles and references to certain key files to look at, and updating this as much as possible means that you'll often get one-shot results with Claude. So if it makes any kind of mistake or does something that you're not really keen on, just add that to Claude Code, add references to what it should or should not do, and then over time it will start to learn your coding style, learn the way you like to do things, and it just becomes extremely powerful and extremely satisfying just from a simple prompt, just getting the perfect code out every single time. You can also design with images on Claude Code just like you could on Cursor. So you can just drag images directly into the terminal and have it just develop that component. You know, building out UI components can be a little bit tedious, so rather than just do it from scratch anymore, I'll just grab a design like this one from Figma, drag it into terminal, give some guidance on what it should actually do, hit enter, and it does a pretty bloody good job of it first time. The best way to improve this though is to make sure you also provide references to any kind of existing UI components that it should use. For example, if you've already developed certain typography components or like a card, for example, just reference those to make sure it reuses them and doesn't just go off to develop its own thing. Remember that Claude Code is not psychic. It doesn't know necessarily what components you want to use. So the more reference, the more context you give it, the better the result is going to be, and that's more so particularly related to UI code. A big thing as well is that Claude Code, when looking at images, is not that good at understanding font sizes. So you can either tag the image up and just mention in the image itself what the font size is that it should use, or just in the prompt, just reference all the different bits of typography on screen and tell it which component to use. Having a good typography system anyway means that your designs are often more consistent, and you can do the same for like spacing and margin and padding, and just give that context, tell it what style guide to look at, tell it what theme file to look at, tell it what typography components to look at, and a lot of the time that drastically improves the output when doing design work. Also make sure that you give it access to any of your relevant commands. So Claude Code excels at being iterative and learning from its mistakes. So make sure it's got access to be able to run tests, run linting, run type checking, and then using those, it can make changes, run tests to make sure that those changes didn't break anything, or run linting to make sure those changes didn't break anything. And then it will understand the mistakes, fix them, and just iterate over that until you get pretty perfect code out of the back. One thing I like to do now is not to develop the business logic or the component logic at all. Instead, just write a unit test, cover all of the edge cases, and then ask it to implement the code that would allow that unit test to pass. Then when it has access to run the tests, it can just develop the feature, run the test, develop the feature, run the test until it has a perfect component. This means that you don't need to do two things anymore. You don't need to develop the component and write the test. You can just pick one, either develop the component and have it do the tests, or do the tests and have it develop the component. So effectively, you're writing 50% less code than you were before. This is one of the biggest strengths for me, is that there's a whole host of things I don't need to do anymore because it could just be completely automated. Don't use Claude Code to think for you. Instead, make sure you remain in charge and use it to support your development. If you do it the other way, you just stop thinking critically about problems, and it just honestly causes brain rot. Like, I can feel my brain melting when I approach things this way. So try to stay in charge. Try not to let it actually do the logical thinking for you. Just use it as a research assistant, use it as a pair programmer. In those scenarios, make sure you still understand what's happening and use it as a support rather than a leader. Use it to lay the groundwork of repetitive tasks as well. If you've done something 1,000 times before, there's no point in doing it again. Anything that is predictable and boring, just automate it, and then you can focus on the fun stuff that's actually useful and that's actually moving you forward. What's really useful is being able to develop multiple features in parallel. So you can send Claude Code off to work on one thing while you focus on another area of the code base. And I've seen plenty of people launch even multiple instances of Claude Code to work on a bunch of things at the same time. I'm not really sure if that's super effective because then you sort of lose control of what's going on and you sort of get into the whole vibe coding realm, which in my opinion isn't actually the best way to build good quality software. It's weird really how quickly you rely on these tools. Like when I'm on the train, for example, or anywhere internet and I'm coding things by hand, you know, the old school way, you start to realize how slow you are in comparison to when you have these tools available. So that's why I'm noticing how much more efficient I am with these tools. So that's, in my opinion, how you can get the most out of Claude Code. If you like this video, guys, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.